Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to lesson 4-3, adding rational numbers. Make sure you have your notes with you and you're taking them. You need to catch any definitions or terminology, as well as examples and procedures on how to do things. As you're watching, make sure that you mark anything that you're unsure of so you can go back through the video and re-watch. Also watch for the learning targets and the I can statements. Okay, let's go ahead.
Without adding, tell whether A plus B, B plus C, and A plus C would result in a negative or positive sum. Tell how you know.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, at this point you need to turn to your companion page in your your book, 4-3, adding rational numbers. And go ahead and try this. Pause the video. When you're done, please go ahead and hit play. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm pulling up the solution for you, and go ahead and review the solution and see how that compares to what you had thought of. And then I'll even pull down to see if I can get the reflector for you. Okay, pause so that you can look at this and compare your notes. So we need to connect our learning today, and we're going to have our focus question is how is adding rational numbers different than adding whole numbers? Remember the difference between adding numbers and whole numbers and rational numbers is whole numbers are your counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on, including 0. Rational is any number that can be written as a ratio.
Property Hero is here to help you remember the identity property, the commutative property, and the associative property. You can use some of these to help add positive and negative numbers. Try it with integers first. You can use properties of addition to simplify a sum of rational numbers with different signs. For example, simplify -7 plus 4. Rewrite -7 as -3 plus -4. Group 4 negative integer chips. Use the associative property of addition to regroup the addition. Join 4 negative integer chips with 4 positive integer chips. Use the inverse property of addition to cancel -4 and 4. Remove the 0 pairs. Use the identity property of addition. The sum of -7 plus 4 is -3. Now try it with decimals. Simplify 3 5/10 plus -5 5/10. First, split -5 5/10 into -3 5/10 plus -2. Use the associative property of addition to group the additive inverses.
Remember, the associative property is just simply saying the order doesn't matter when you're adding.
What is the sum of two additive inverses? Use the inverse property of addition. Use the identity property of addition.
Okay, real quick, I want to go over the inverse property of addition is saying a number and its opposite will result in 0. So then you had 3.5 plus a -3.5. When you combine those, you got 0. The identity property of addition says that when you add 0 to any number, it does not change.
The sum of 3 5/10 and -5 5/10 is -2.
Okay, let's check the got it. You do have the got it's in your notebook that you took home with you, that big book. So if you wanted to go to that, you can. If you want to just conclude it in your notes, that's fine as well.
Complete the steps.
Let's see what Sarah has to say.
So it looks like one way to think about adding a negative and a positive is to find a way to split the number with the bigger absolute value into two parts that let you pair up one part of the numbers with its additive inverse. I just love splitting rationals, don't you?
Okay, so it's saying write 3/5. Rewrite that. Well, how can we write 3/5? What are some of the ways we can do that so that we can get a positive 1/5 that would cancel this? So I'm going to look for a positive 1/5. What do I have to add to 1/5 to get 3/5? That's correct, 2/5. So what you're doing is you're looking and saying, okay, 3/5, how can I rewrite that so that when I'm doing my adding, I can get 0? This is what I found. I have a negative 1/5, so I need a positive 1/5 so that they can become 0. And now it's telling me use the associative property of addition. Remember, that's simply saying order does not matter. So I'm going to put 2/5 out here. I'm going to put a negative 1/5, so I'm bringing that straight down, and I'm putting a positive 1/5. This way, when I add these, I'm doing the inverse property of addition, and I'm getting 0, because a number and its opposite, when combined, will give you 0. Now, this just comes straight down, 2/5. Now, when I'm adding 2/5 to 0, the identity property of addition says any number that's added, 0 added to any number, remains the same, because 0 doesn't change it, and you already knew that. So let's check. Yay, we did it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I guess I misspoke when I said this was the got it. The got it is coming up next. So now you'll want to use your book.
What property can you use to write the step the quantity 9 3/10 plus negative 9 3/10 plus negative 3 4/10 in this addition problem?
Okay, so let's look and see what they did. We have 9.3, 9 3/10 plus a negative 12 7/10. They left the 9 3/10 alone, and they're going to break up the negative 12 7/10 into parts so that we can eventually cancel out this 9.3 or become 0. So they said, well, I know I need it to be opposite of 9.3, so that'll be negative 9.3. What does that leave me with? 3.4. So go ahead and continue and see if you can identify the different properties. Remember the associative property of addition, the identity property, and such. Go ahead and pause to do so. Okay, thank you for coming back. Oh, I guess they weren't showing us all of that. But we see that the associative property addition just states that we can rewrite that, and we did. So we have associative property here, I want to say additive inverse property, and then the additive identity property. Okay, we're going to move on to key concepts, and that'll be the last part of this video for part 1 of lesson 4.3. Remember, in key concepts we usually get some good definitions and examples we must write down.
While using number line models, integer chips, and properties of addition, you may have found methods for adding numbers with the same sign and numbers with different signs.
Okay, so to add two numbers with the same sign,
Add the absolute values of the numbers. Use the sign of the numbers as the sign of the sum.
okay, so if I have negative 1/2 and I have negative 3.5 and I want to combine those, well, I know if I'm at negative 3.5 and I move an additional 1.5 to the left, that I'm going to arrive at negative 4.5. What they're saying is you can look at this as adding 1/2 and 3/2 and coming up with 4/2, and since they're both negative, that they would remain negative. So if both signs when adding are negative, they stay negative. If both signs are positive, then they would stay positive. Let's look at when you add two numbers with a different sign.
Find the absolute values of the numbers. Subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value. Use the sign of the number with the greater absolute value as the sign of the sum.
Okay, What you have ability to do here, to put it into basic English, is you're going to take -2, add 1.5. In order to find out what sign you're going to maintain, whoever has the largest absolute value is the sign you keep. In this case, the absolute value of -2 is 2, and the absolute value of 1.5 is 1.5. So 2 is a larger value, absolute value, so we're going to keep the negative sign. When I do my math, I move to the right 1.5 spaces on the number line, and then I move back 2 spaces. You'll see that I'm at -half. That's how you can calculate that. Any questions, please go back through the video, watch it, see if there's anything it can clarify. Make sure that you come to class with those questions so that we can assist you, as well as making sure you know that the learning target and the I can statement from this part of the video. Thank you.